Topping today's news, a U.S. registered airplane goes missing between Long Island and Exuma. Industrial unrest as finance officers protest. The health minister defends the proposed sugar tax. More on the U.S. vice president's visit and its commitment to CARICOM. And the former leader of the Democratic National Alliance dies in what police have believed to be an accident. Police are receiving reports that an aircraft has crashed in waters east of Exuma Keys. According to reports, shortly before 12 noon today, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Authority, the AAIA, received notification that a Piper PA-32 aircraft with United States registration N9253M did not reach its intended destination in Stella Maris, Long Island, and contact was lost with the aircraft control while en route. The United States Coast Guard, along with the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and the Royal Bahamas Police Force, have coordinated efforts in search and rescue for the aircraft. Jcn will continue to follow this story.
The money and we want it now. We want our money and we want it now. We want our money and we want it now.
That's the sound of finance and accounting officers within the public service as they protested outside on the lawn of the office of the Prime Minister this morning. Members of the Bahamas Public Service Union, BPSU, led by President Kingsley Ferguson, held a protest demanding a meeting with the Prime Minister to get a resolution for back pay and much-deserved promotions on the job.
We're unable to access the financial secretary, who's not accepting calls from the union. And so we need to get an understanding as to what is happening for these individuals in relation to the advancement. We have here an age-old problem of some 15 to 20 years where these individuals or who carry out very significant and important roles in the public service. These are the people that ensure that persons are paid. These are the people who ensure that vendors that have contracts with the governments are sorted. And these, last but by no means least, are the persons who have to process payment for promotions for other persons.
Yes,
and so they are processing promotions for the various ministries and departments in the public service. Every day that they do these things is a constant reminder that nothing has been happening for them.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson says several attempts have been made to contact the financial secretary to get some resolve to these matters, but all their efforts were unsuccessful.
We met with the Prime Minister on last year. The Prime Minister gave the financial secretary particular instructions. Those instructions were not carried out. If that was any other normal public servant, they would have been disciplined. Now, I don't know who's playing games, but this is the livelihood and the lives, and every life here represented is a family represented. And so we see and we understand that there's some other things on the horizon in relation to finances that are going to impact these people's salaries. And they're not begging for anything. They're asking for what they rightfully deserve.
When asked what is the next move if the Prime Minister and the Financial Secretary do not respond, BPSU President had this to say.
After the day, I'm going to write again. I cannot say to you what can happen. You know, we got all kind of funny weather around here. People just get the flu real easy and things. All kind of things can happen. But I'm saying to you, these people have a right. We're going to exhaust all those avenues. And after that, I can't tell you what can happen.
Jcn News will continue to follow the story as well. With over $200 million owed to the Department of Inland Revenue by foreigners, Minister of Economic Affairs Senator Michael Halkitis says repossessing the foreign-owned properties is not off the table for the government.
When you look at real property tax alone, you're looking at over $800 million. Over $200 million of that is owned by, foreigners. Is owed by foreigners, sorry. And so the collection, you go anywhere from, you send out a bill and, you want people to pay, then you do some follow-ups, and then, as the delinquency increases to months and years, then your powers, the powers that you exercise increase. And so we have the department has the power to, go as far as, if it comes to that, especially, as I said last week, Thursday, when we were talking about foreign-owned properties, vacant land, and those things, where delinquencies are stretching into the years and all other efforts to collect have been exhausted, then you have to be able to exercise that power of sale, which is in the law, which has been done in the past.
Minister Halkida says while repossession is not something they want to do, it must be done if they have to.
But, when you have such sometimes stubborn delinquencies, you have to, sometimes that's what you have to do.
During the recent budget communication by Prime Minister Philip Davis, he revealed that the government is looking to crack down on delinquent accounts which amount to over $800 million in unpaid fees. Repossession is the government's last resort. Climate change finance initiatives tackling guns being smuggled into the Bahamas, energy and food security, and the crisis in Haiti were just some of the topics discussed on Thursday during the historic visit of the United States Vice President Kamala Harris as she co-hosted the U.S. Caribbean meeting at the Atlantis Resort on Paradise Island. Thursday's meeting was the fourth multilateral meeting Vice President Harris has had with Caribbean leaders, but the first time a senior government official from the United States has visited the Bahamas in quite some time. Vice President Harris made a commitment to meet with the leaders of the Caribbean once per year to discuss priorities and specific areas of collaboration. The U.S. Vice President made a number of announcements, including the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, providing nearly $15 million to support disaster risk reduction, emergency response capacity strengthening, and resilience building across the Caribbean.
And today it is my pleasure to announce additional PAC 2030 investments. One, specifically, a $20 million investment in the Caribbean Climate Investment Program to help incentivize the private sector to partner with Caribbean nations to develop more clean energy technologies like microgrids and energy storage systems, and to help businesses become more energy efficient in their operations. And second, a $15 million investment to support emergency response efforts and strengthen the capacity of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. This investment is intended to help develop new early warning systems and pre-position first aid equipment and generators. As a follow-up to this convening, in fact, tomorrow the Atlantic Council and RMI are hosting a PAC 2030 summit here in Nassau.
Vice President Harris also addressed crime. She says by orders of President Joe Biden's support and collaborative measures will be put in place to combat devastating impacts of illicit firearms trade.
On the issue of security, too many people in all of our countries are dying from gun violence. I will reiterate that our administration is committed to disrupt gun trafficking. We are committed to interdict shipments of arms and ammunition and hold traffickers accountable. And today I am pleased to announce that the United States Department of Justice will create a new position, a coordinator for Caribbean firearms prosecutions, which will help maximize information sharing between our countries to support the prosecution of traffickers. This effort will be aided by the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which President Biden signed last year, and includes new federal criminal offenses for firearms trafficking and straw purchases. In addition, through the U.S. law enforcement agencies, we are supporting a recently established Caribbean Crime Gun Intelligence Unit in Trinidad and Tobago.
Vice President Harris also said the U.S. supports a multinational approach to solving Haiti's problem. To that end, she announced that the U.S. would provide just over $53 million in aid to Haiti. Prior to Vice President Harris's announcement, she and Prime Minister Philip Davis met in bilateral talks between the Bahamas and the United States. In welcoming the Vice President, Prime Minister Davis said it was his hope that they would make the most of their time together, discussing a broad range of issues, including energy, food security, and climate resilience.
We are pleased to welcome Vice President Harris to join our Caribbean nations. Madam Vice President, I believe we all feel and appreciate the depth and sincerity of your commitment to the region and to our people. We will make the most of our time together, I'm sure. Indeed, our discussions will cover a broad range of issues: energy and food security, climate resilience, development finance and economic opportunity, and regional cooperation and security. The agenda is ambitious, reflecting the urgency of addressing these challenges and the real opportunity we see to make progress.
And finally, in this segment, Chris Mortimer, well-known businessman and former leader of the Democratic National Alliance, the DNA, has died at the age of 53. Mr. Mortimer was found pinned between his vehicle and a chain-linked fence on Thursday afternoon. Police have reclassified his death from suspicious to accidental as investigations continue. According to a police report, officers found Mr. Mortimer, a resident of Lockhart Lane off Davis Street, sometime around 4 p.m. The incident reportedly involved a black Ford Explorer, with preliminary reports indicating that shortly before 4 p.m. the victim was traveling west along Lockhart Lane when he reportedly exited the vehicle. It is further reported by police that when officers arrived on the scene, they discovered the vehicle in the reverse gear and the driver pinned against the chain link fence. The victim received serious injuries and succumbed to his injuries on scene. On behalf of JCN and Love 97 News, the family here, we express our deepest condolences to the Mortimer family in this, their time of grief. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.